Good day, friends. This is a voice-only video because, as you know by now, a face is just a distraction. First of all, thank you for being here. Your presence is, as always, very much appreciated. Today's topic is my opinion on meltdowns suffered by top athletes. Everyone has occasional meltdowns, and so do top athletes. Athletes tend to develop a tougher mental endurance, which is shaped by their training regimens, which enables them to have a tighter grip on their public display of emotions. The fact that athletes are on average young and the pressure on them is very high and continuous places them more at risk than the average person. While it is quite normal for the pressure to be overwhelming, the fact that they are public figures results in their emotions to be put in public display, which can have detrimental impact on their mental states. Since depressed individuals are often told to engage in sports to boost serotonin, dopamine, and noradrenaline, why then are professional athletes depressed? We are not looking at a bad mood or a transitory period of sadness. We're actually talking about a major episode of depression. The normal flow of daily life is influenced, and the athlete's ability to complete daily tasks is impacted and can evolve in loss of interest for the future. What was once easy cannot be performed nor visualized anymore. The athlete is not able to envision positive outcomes and can even develop suicidal tendencies. It is not unheard of, unfortunately, of top athletes that fall victim of depression when they retire, including drug abuse and alcoholism. They tend to shy away from public life, and the existential void that hits them very hard can go as far as undermining their life. Being top-tier athletes doesn't just require talent, discipline, and dedication. It mostly requires a good psychological and emotional balance. It requires a strong support system, and the athlete must also develop interests that stretch outside their specific competence of their sport. Some examples are famous soccer players that fell victims of alcohol, a cyclist who took his own life, a famous tennis player who wrote a book about his depression, and one of the most decorated swimmers had issues dealing with the consequences of his depression. How can we forget the most visible gymnast struggle with mental health, and a young tennis star publicly discussed the situation of her emotional well-being? Statistics tell us that 1/4 of professional athletes is depressed, a percentage that reaches half after retirement. Most of these athletes compete in individual disciplines. They take it upon themselves that every missed opportunity, every injury, every loss and lack of performance results in a personal failure. It is a loss of universal proportions since their every action is televised or discussed on social media. Every competition is at the same time an occasion to shine and the possibility of a public failure. All failures or losses in individual sports weigh on the shoulders of the single athlete, and there is no team to support them and distribute the responsibility of a failure. When athletes go through troubled times, their drive diminishes, just as it does when, irrespective of their results, they're not having fun anymore. If the athlete's self-esteem is not in peak shape, the risk of interpreting that sporting loss as something related to the innermost part of oneself is right behind the corner. Athletes very often risk associating sporting defeats with a personal failure and not just a performance-related issue. They forget to relate it as something solely connected to their profession. They let it touch their innermost self. Extreme cases can lead to feelings of inadequacy. These athletes enter a vicious circle where their persona is demolished and vitality seems to slip through their fingers. It is crucial that athletes keep a distinct separation of their private self and their professional figure. Otherwise, they will run the risk of one sporting defeat to be seen as a personal defeat. This is where the lifestyle of a professional athlete counts the most. They have been success-oriented all their lives, their private and innermost feelings are unknown or often overlooked for the sake of notoriety, fame, and results. This is fine until they burn out, until they're put under immense pressure and their nomadic lifestyle that doesn't allow to build an infrastructure that is completely estranged from the sports world. Economic pressures coming from sponsorships or the need to win at all costs can either procure injuries or allure into doping. Otherwise, it will just cause overworking and aging physique. Only someone who knows the athlete, that has been with the athlete for a long time, is capable of evaluating personality changes in their approach to the sport. Only experienced eyes can see curbing enthusiasms for the sport, or any other sign that the athlete is heading for or going through some sort of psychological challenge. This is not to say that an athlete cannot have a bad day or seek a day off or a month off, but any perduring change is to be looked at. We do not necessarily need to sit down and split hairs, but neither do we want to brush everything aside all the time. Analyze and evaluate based on the knowledge we have of the athlete. I was once having an amiable conversation with a professional motorcycle champion who casually told me about a racing incident. He said, "Imagine if instead of looking right, I had looked left. I would have died." I was shocked at hearing what he said, and so was he of saying what he did. Professional racers never evaluate what if, but he did, and I noticed he did. We were both shocked. I asked him to have a chat later. When he saw me a few weeks later, he said, "I realized what I said, and you noticed. And when that happens, when your head goes there, it is time to quit." We were a few races to the end of the championship, and at the end of which he retired. Being a professional athlete is a privilege for few. I suggest investing a little more time in training their minds as well. To know oneself, to gain awareness of one's personal emotional limits is just as important as physical training. Athletes should be conscious of one's values and therefore perform at their point of equilibrium. Professional athletes must have fun on the job, and the day they don't anymore is when they should start asking themselves a few questions. Most important of all, they should have a good support system for when times get tough and nothing seems to make sense anymore. To sum it up, an athlete is a name and a surname. Sports is what they do, not who they are. This is motivation and inspiration in the dark, and that is all I have for you today. Thank you. If you appreciate this channel, please consider subscribing and maybe sharing with a friend. And again, thank you.